the key for me, the absolute bottom line key, is self-identity. What do you recognize yourself as and yourself to be? If you self-identify with your body and your labels of a brief human experience, that's all it is, then you're self-identifying with limitation, severe limitation. You're self-identifying with isolation. You're self-identifying overwhelmingly with the world as perceived by the five senses. And the five senses are the village idiot compared with expanded consciousness, which we all have the capacity to be. If you say to somebody, hello, nice to meet you, who are you? They'll give you their human labels. They'll tell you their name. They'll probably tell you their birthplace, their location, their job, their sexuality, their religion. And these are all labels for experiences. They're not who we are. We are the consciousness having the experience. And this, the lower levels of our incarnate consciousness can get absolutely mesmerized and mazed out by the illusions of this world. I mean, we're in a world that we interact with as if it's solidity, and it's not solid. There is no solidity, just holographic, malleable, illusory physicality. So if we're living in a physical world in our daily experience, but there's no way that world can be physical, because that's been very clearly shown to be, then, I mean, what level of illusion compares with that? I mean, it's ridiculous. The whole thing's an illusion. But if you self-identify with the body and the human, I'm not saying, you know, don't enjoy your human experience, that's what we're doing, but identifying with it. This is me, it's not. It's what you're experiencing. I'm not David Icke. That's just the name for my experience. I am the consciousness having an experience called David Icke. And when I leave the body, as you know, you see with endless accounts of near-death experiences, you go into a reality that's very different from this one. And I explain in the books and other places why that is. It's very simple. So are we going to identify with who we are, consciousness, an expression of infinite awareness? All that is, has been, and ever can be, all possibility, all potential, because that's what that is. You can't be all that is, has been, and ever can be. Yes, you can. If you're all possibility, you have to be all possibilities. That's what we are part of. We live in a sea of all possibility, what some people call God. But if you focus, and this is what the cult's doing all the time, this is why it controls the education system and the media and all the lines of communication. If they can get you just to become so myopic in your self-identity and your perception of reality that the five senses absolutely dominate everything, then they've got you in this world and of this world. But if you focus on and self-identify with limitation, the world of I can't and it's not possible, then as the Buddha is supposed to have said, the mind that basically believes in limitation is the limitation. Because I have this phrase, what you believe, you perceive, and what you perceive, you experience. This is why this cult knows that. That's why it wants to control what you believe, thus what you perceive, thus what you experience. So if you believe in limitation, if you believe you're powerless, then you will create that reality, because your perception becomes your experience reality. This is the feedback loop the cult knows about, doesn't want us to know about. But when you therefore expand your awareness, your self-identity, as you expand your self-identity from a little set of labels, and note, by the way, this is all part of the deeper psychology of this. Note how the woke mentality and the whole woke way of doing things is putting people into smaller and smaller labels of self-identity. And what's happening is the human labels that we identify with are now being subdivided into smaller and smaller labels, and people are getting further and further and further from an understanding of the true self, that this mentality is that we are simply consciousness having an experience called these labels. So just as when you self-identify in myopia, you create a life that is based on limitation. So as you self-identify and expand your sense of self, I am consciousness, all consciousness, ultimately having a brief human experience, that expansion of self-identity expands the consciousness that you're accessing. Because that creates limitation, this creates expansion. That limits the amount of consciousness you're accessing, thus you can process information with. And this takes you into, as much as you want to let in expansion of consciousness, with all that insight, awareness, knowing, intuitive knowing, innate intelligence, not remembering me lines so I can pass me exams intelligence, not learned intelligence, innate intelligence, which is of the heart. And when you open your heart, this heart vortex, this is the route out there. This is why they want to close it. You look at all the different expressions where heart is involved, all the way through the ages: hard-hearted, closed heart, open heart. Yeah, this is all part. Are they talking about this, going boom, boom, boom? They're talking about this. And this is what takes us out there. And one of the great things about opening this, because people think, oh, you know, love, oh yeah, you bloody weak he is, talks about love, he does, he's a bloke, you know. But hold on a minute. What is love? In its true sense, I would suggest, it's that which holds the entirety of infinity together. It's the very core and foundation of it. We are in an experience where we've been closed off from that systematically. That's why we have the world we have, and it's not the world that exists out there. It's the world that we're experiencing, which is very different. And so when you open that, lots of things happen. First of all, you lose the fear of death, because you know instinctively, never mind all the evidence, instinctively, that there is no death, and that we're just having a brief experience called human through a human body, which locks us into this band of frequencies we call the world, and then we leave this band of frequencies, which is why near-death experiencers experience a very different reality once they leave the body. And so when you lose the fear of death, so many potential intimidations disappear. Then you reach this connection out there beyond this manipulated lunatic asylum, where you reach a point where you simply have to do what you know to be right, because you're connected to something that operates like that, another level of you. So once you reach that point, you don't go through a checklist of consequences for doing what you know to be right. You just do it, because to the heart, in its power, considering consequences is to consider not doing what you know to be right, and this will never do that. And I'm not talking about consequences like, you know, if I walk in front of a truck, I'm gonna get killed. My body is. Not that kind of consequence. I mean consequences for doing what you know to be right, which is like never more applicable than in current events. You don't consider, well, if I do what I know to be right, what are the consequences for me? You just do it. And as more and more people just do that, then the game's over, because acquiescence is how we got into this mess. Non-acquiescence is how we get out of it.
Help by spreading this message. Share with your friends, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Turn on notifications to stay updated.